When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
Hello, and welcome to this special episode of Disturbed. These stories were voted on by our Patreon and selected as the best reads from last month's episodes. If you want to weigh in for next month's best of, join the Patreon at the link in the description. Without further ado, let's get to our first story. First, narrated by Tara Ash from r/Let's Not Meet. Next time, think twice before dismissing the creaks you hear in the house at night.
I've tried to put the story into words so many times before, but I always get lost in the details. There are a lot of them. I hope you can understand where I'm coming from. This is maybe the single strangest thing that has ever happened to me. In 2015, I was 19 and I had a summer job at a vacation Bible camp for inner city kids. I live in a big city. All the issues that big cities have were a part of life for me. I was told that this neighborhood was in the process of being gentrified. They had even just opened up a hipster coffee shop/dog park right down the street. It wasn't my side of town, so I guess I just took that opinion on its face. The neighborhood was strange. To be fair, half dilapidated houses with trash out in the front, and across the street were beautiful townhouses with immaculate yards and square modern architecture. The Bible camp where I was working was essentially just a big 2-story house with a large fenced-in yard. Again, we were assured that we were safe. There were bars on the windows, and the outer doors locked automatically when they shut. The camp was conducted in the homes downstairs, and the summer counselors, there were 4 of us, lived in a small upstairs apartment that was off-limits during the day to the kids. There were a couple other counselors who lived around town. Our camp ran 5 days a week, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then time was ours to explore the city or rest or whatever. I remember it was Saturday evening in July, and all 6 of us were hanging out at the apartment cooking a spaghetti dinner. We had our own food stipends and pantry as opposed to the camp's fridge and pantry. Each of us counselors didn't take any chances and scribbled our names all over everything that was ours. My best friend Chris was also a counselor, and she and I were cooking for the other counselors. It was time to make the meatballs, so I went into the staff fridge to get the ground beef and noticed that my fresh pack of Go-Gurts were gone. I closed the fridge and walked to the dining room and yelled at everyone else, "Who stole all my Go-Gurts?" Everyone looked at me wide-eyed and blankly back and forth at each other. I figured it was one of the counselor's friends who was hanging out that night, so I just sucked it up and said, "Whatever, just please don't eat anything if it has someone's name on it." Chris and I headed back to the kitchen to get back to cooking. After dinner, the other 2 resident counselors started doing the dishes for us, so Chris and I headed into the living room to get comfy and watch TV. We've only barely turned it on when that counselor's friend, Sarah, came in to tell us that she couldn't find her phone or wallet. I paused the show and roll my eyes at Chris, still annoyed about the Go-Gurts. Chris asks, "Where did you last have them?" She says she left them on the couch before dinner. We all start looking around, turning over the cushions, etc. After 10 or so minutes of searching, Sarah heads downstairs to look around some more. Chris and I didn't want to get interrupted again, so we decided to go into our shared bedroom to resume watching our show. We both sit on the bottom bunk, and I proceed to start venting about Sarah, who I felt like was ruining the evening. Our door is cracked open, and I notice a hand slowly sneak in while we're talking. "Hey, did you find them?" I ask, assuming it's Sarah. The second I spoke up, the hand darted out of the frame, and there was no response. Chris and I exchanged glances of confusion, and we ran out into the living room and yelled for everyone to come in. We hear one of the counselors yell, "We're all downstairs looking for Sarah's phone." That sent shivers down my spine. Who was up here with Chris and I alone? We sprint down the stairs and find everyone around Sarah, who is upset and tearing up. Her friend, the camp counselor, says, "Come on, guys, did you take her stuff?" Chris and I say it wasn't us, and Sarah screams through her tears that obviously someone took them and they should just come clean. I decided to cut the tension and ask about the hand. Everyone stares at me blankly before getting wide-eyed as they come to the realization that I did. Someone was in the house with us. In a panic, we all sprint through the house, searching high and low for this possible intruder. Someone called the camp director to come help, and by the time he arrives, we've all come back from searching and have huddled together in the foyer. He calls the police, and they come to take our statements and make a stolen property report, which I guess makes Sarah feel better. Still, they didn't find anyone after a half-hearted search and seemed to suspect that we were making the whole thing up. After an hour or so, the police, the director, and the 2 other counselors and Sarah all left for the night. We all spent the night together in the living room, easing our anxious brains by joking that the phone and wallet will turn up somewhere random and we'll all laugh about it then. Fast forward a few days, and the adrenaline has definitely worn off from that night. We still haven't found any of Sarah's things, but nothing else strange has happened in the house. It's the evening, and the 4 of us are getting cleaned up before bed. We finish cleaning up outside, lock the gate, and head in the dining room door. We're all hungry, and Chris heads to the kitchen to get snacks. She finds the door to the backyard wide open. Again, I feel the sense of unease that something was wrong, but I push it down. I respond, "One of the kids must have left it open," in an effort to dismiss it. Chris shuts and locks the door before turning to notice the fridge is cracked open. We all pause when she tells us, and after a moment, I say, "Oh no, y'all, he's back." We all laugh with relief. Chris grabs a broom, holding it like a baseball bat, and yells, "Let's get him, girls!" Adding to the joke, she starts throwing open the doors around the kitchen, yelling, "We know you're in here, show yourself!" I'm following behind her, laughing at her exaggerated gesture, but slowly that sense of unease creeps over me. I can tell she's nervous too, even if she's trying to play it off. She continues her charade into the next room, throwing open 2 closet doors at once. "We know you're..." She starts before looking into a closet and freezing in her tracks. Her eyes wide, she lets out a loose scream so loud that my hairs all stood on end. She chucks the broom into the open closet and sprints past me, back into the living room and out the door into the backyard. I see her in the window, booking it down the sidewalk. I turn slowly, afraid to acknowledge that she's not playing some sick joke. My heart is pounding in my ears as I watch the closet door close slowly, revealing an older, dirty-looking man standing in the hallway. I completely froze. He smiles wide, barely any teeth left in his mouth. He holds up his hands and says, "I didn't mean no harm," while slowly backing away towards the front door. I didn't believe him for a second. He could say whatever he wanted. The look in his eyes made me scared for my life. I manage the courage to squeak out, "You can't just leave." His smile disappears and he restates, "I didn't mean no harm." He fully turns and runs through the house. As I round the corner to the foyer, all I find is the front door wide open and the man completely gone. I fumble in my pocket for my phone before dialing 911 and running out into the sidewalk to look for him. He was nowhere to be seen. The next few hours were a blur. It felt as if we were crazy, having convinced ourselves earlier that week that we were just imagining things, that the house was fine and we were safe. No more. The camp director apologized profusely, and one of the police who had visited the other night came by to say the same. I was okay, shaken up, but I decided to finish out the summer job. Chris, on the other hand, is still really traumatized from the events of that night. She says that when she opened the closet, he was just staring at her with the blank stare and that same wide smile. She said it was like he was waiting for her to find him and that his face still haunts her sometimes. We're still friends to this day, but I can't bring up that summer unless she has a few beers in. I myself sit up at night and worry myself into a knot about it sometimes. How long had he been in the house with us? What if Chris hadn't been in the bedroom with me that night when he stuck his hand through the doorway? What was the hiding place he found on spaghetti night? I just imagine him lying on the floor under Chris and I's bunk bed, listening to us talk, watching us get dressed in the morning. I know I'll never get the answers I feel like I need, but at least we all got through it safe and sound. To the creepy, grinning squatter who lived in the vacation Bible school house, for the love of God, let's not meet again.
You're listening to Disturbed. We'll be right back.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is,
"Thank you for calling. Please listen to your list of 46 possible service options."
which is why when you choose USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable. 24/7 online service for claims, access to roadside assistance, and more, all at the touch of a button. Start getting the service you deserve. Get a quote today. Ability to receive a quote depends on membership eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliate, San Antonio, Texas.
Welcome back to the podcast. Our next story is told by the one and only GOAT, Gregory James, about seeing an evil version of oneself in the mirror.
I'm decades removed from this memory of mine, but I can remember it as vividly as ever. From the ages of 4 to 8, I would see something from time to time that haunts me now with my adult perspective. I would see a doppelganger, some kind of twin of myself, and I can remember exactly what it looked like and how it behaved. It was definitely some kind of version of me, but had short hair that stood in all directions, sharp fingernails and toenails that resembled black claws, and sharp, spiky brown teeth. It mostly came out at night, but once in a while, it even visited me during the daytime. Whatever this thing was, it would always come right through the wall, as if it could squeeze between its very existence. Then it would crawl up to the ceiling before settling in a corner of my room. There, it would sit and watch me with its dark red eyes, a vile grin plastered on its face. It never hurt anybody. In fact, it never did anything, just creeping in the corner of my room, staring down at me. The creature was always smiling in a wide, creepy grin, and its eager expression made me wonder if it wanted to eat me. Sometimes, when someone was coming up the stairs to my room, it would slowly hold a finger to its lips, telling me to be quiet. I always obeyed, out of fear for what it would do to me if I didn't. Eventually, I tried to tell someone. One evening, my sister came into my room while my demonic twin was in the corner. I told her there was something up there, but when she turned to look, she said she couldn't see anything. The creature laughed at me, silently, pointing at me as if to say, "Only you can see me." It never made any noise, ever. This experience was over 30 years ago, but I can still see that thing in my mind's eye, clear as ever. People talk about having imaginary friends as a child, but this was different. Aren't imaginary friends supposed to be your friends? Someone you play and have fun with? This creature was anything but that. It haunted my room regularly. This wasn't an every once in a while occurrence. And then, as unexplainably as it came, it disappeared from my life by the time I turned 9. This doppelganger from the deepest circle of hell is so clear to me when so many memories from that time have faded. I've lost loved ones and good friends in the years since, and sometimes I struggle to think back on my times with them. Somehow it feels like this creature is still in the corners of my mind, taking up space reserved for my other memories. I hope it moves on from that haunted place too.
Our final story is narrated by Paul Brown from Reddit user Banshee McGee. A metal detecting experience.
Years ago, I was an avid metal detectorist. I knew of an old military trail and river crossing way back in a secluded portion of woods that not many others were aware of, and I was really eager to explore it. One winter morning, I had the day off, and the weather was actually decent. So I decided it was the perfect time to finally check out this area with my metal detector. The trail is about a mile or two from a city park, along the South Conco River in San Angelo, Texas. I parked my truck, got all my gear, and began my trek through the raw woods and brush. And about halfway into the trees, I came into a clearing and found an isolated tent and campsite about 40 yards away from the river. Cans were lying all around it, and I also saw some clothes and some other stuff. I mean, it was clear someone was, currently staying there. And I continued on my way, but as I was exiting the clearing, a haggard-looking guy came out of the brush just out of nowhere, a few feet from me. I startled him, I think, just as much as he startled me. After some chit-chat back and forth, he asked me what I was doing in the woods. I told him about the old trail and my metal detecting equipment, and I actually lied that it was a pretty well-known site for hobbyists like me. That last comment seemed to make him a bit anxious. He started asking me if I messed with his campsite at all. And I told him no, other than accidentally stepping on one of the discarded cans. His main concern was if I had looked into his tent, which of course I hadn't. The guy related that his wife had actually kicked him out of their apartment a few days ago, and he was just staying in the woods until he got back on his feet. His story didn't really add up in my mind, but I didn't press him on it. Finally, I told him that I was gonna get on my way, and with a strange expression on his face, he suggested that I not go behind his campsite because he had recently used the bathroom back there. Whether there was fresh fertilizer back there or not, I had no desire to hang around there any longer. I went a little further towards the trail I wanted to metal detect, but I had an uneasy feeling that I just couldn't shake. I decided to turn back towards the river and head back to my truck as quickly as I could. I was glad that I did not meet the guy again on my way back, nor did I ever see him in those woods again. I did see his face somewhere else, though. About 2 years later, his picture was in the local news. He had been apprehended by authorities for murdering his wife. He had buried her in the exact area of the forest where I had met him. In fact, he had just completed the task shortly before our encounter. Be careful when exploring the woods. You may find more than what you bargained for.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at disturbedpodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producers are Noah Fouts and Elizabeth Flood. Our audio engineer is Nathan Corson. Executive producers Bridget Coyne and Gerardo Orlando. Until next time, stay safe out there.
Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One with pico and creamy chipotle ranch, and the other with bacon and avocado ranch. Chicken expert since 1990. Taco expert since now. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.